Hello students, welcome to video lecture on multiple choice questions. In this video lecture, I am going to discuss model question paper on SY BSc semester 3 physics paper 2nd, that is electronics. So we will directly go to model question paper and we will see multiple choice questions. You will have 60 questions, out of which you have to solve 50 questions. Each question will carry 1 mark. So let us go to first multiple choice question. If two resistances 6 ohm and 12 ohm are connected in parallel, then their equivalent resistance is less than 6 ohm, less than 12 ohm but greater than 6 ohm, greater than 12 ohm, none of the above. Now here, suppose between points A and B, two resistances are in parallel. Here R1 and R2. So this is B. So we get here 1 upon R is equal to 1 upon R1 plus 1 upon R2. So R is equal to R1 R2 upon R1 plus R2. So this is resistance for parallel combination between 2 points. So here R1 is 6 ohm, R2 is 12 ohm divided by 6 plus 12. So here 6 into 12 divided by 18. So here 1, 3. So 12 by 3, that is 4 ohm. So it is less than 6 ohm. It is also less than 12 ohm. So here it is less than 6 ohm. Less than 6 ohm. Next one. In series circuit, which of the following is not correct? The effective resistance R equivalent is equal to R1 plus R2 plus so on Rn. Voltage across each resistor is same. The current through all resistors is same. The sum of individual voltages equal to the applied voltage. So if we see simply here, series circuit, this is battery, and suppose resistances R1, R2, R3, R4, they are in series. So R1, R2, R3, R4. Suppose this is battery of EMF, then current will flow through this, and suppose I be the current. Now we will observe that the same current will flow through the circuit. So here this one is correct. Now if we take current through the circuit, that is E upon R1 plus R2 plus R3 plus R4. So the effective resistance is sum, that is also correct. And what is potential difference across V1, R1? It is V1 is equal to I into R1, V2 is equal to I into R2, V3 is equal to I into R3, and V4 is equal to I into R4, and so on. So since resistances are in series, same current is flowing, potential difference will be more when resistance is more in this case. And according to Kirchhoff's law, E is equal to V1 plus V2 plus V3 plus V4. So here the sum of the individual voltages equal to the applied voltage, that is according to Kirchhoff's second law. The voltage across each resistor is same. No, that depends on value of resistance. If it is more, voltage is more. Now next one. When two terminals of the circuit is open, then resistance between two terminals is. So suppose this is some circuit, and suppose this A and B are two terminals taken out from the circuit. Since no current flows through these two terminals, we take resistance, that is infinite. So when terminals are open, resistance between two terminals is infinite. So here it is infinite. Now next one, when two terminals of the circuit is short, then resistance between two terminals is, means if we short these two terminals, so it acts as a zero resistance. So here resistance between two terminals is 0. Now next one, in superposition theorem, when we consider the effect of one voltage source, all the other voltage sources are. So suppose we take electrical circuit, like this. So E1, E2, E3, R1, R2, R3, R4, R5, and so on. So this circuit has 3 sources and 5 resistances. Suppose we want to find current through this resistance due to source E1. So current through R2 due to E1, then we have to short this one. So first we find due to E1 through R2, we short E2 and E3, short. Then when we want to find due to E3 through R2, short E1 and E2, and so on, and then combining effect of each source individually. So all other sources are shorted. In Thevenin's equivalent circuit, VTH and RTH are in series, parallel, maybe in series or parallel, none of the above. Now any network containing sources of EMF and resistances like this, and two terminals are taken out, suppose AB, then equivalent voltage circuit, that is Thevenin circuit, is VTH and RTH. They are in series across terminals AB. So you can convert that linear network into voltage source of VTH and RTH in series across the two terminals. So here VTH and RTH, they are in series. In Norton's equivalent circuit, IN and RN are in. So when we convert this network across terminals A and B as Norton circuit, then we have here IN, that is current source giving out current, and equivalent resistance RN, and these are two terminals A and B. So current source and RN are parallel. Now next one, if the internal resistance of the network is 100 ohm, then the maximum power will be delivered to load resistance RL if RL is. So here suppose this is source of EMF E and internal resistance Ri, and we have load resistance connected across this. Let us take this as RL. So when we plot graph of RL versus power power here delivered is I square RL, and I is E upon RL plus Ri. So here if we plot graph, you will get graph like this. So when we increase resistance from small value to higher value, power goes on increasing. Somewhere here power is maximum and then decreases. So at certain value of load resistance, power is maximum. So here P max, and this power is maximum when RL is equal to RI, means load resistance is equal to internal resistance of the source, then power will be maximum. So here internal resistance, it is 100 ohm. So maximum power will be delivered when load resistance is 100 ohm. So equal to 100 ohm. Equal to 100 ohm. Now next one, a network consisting of DC battery of EMF 12 volt and internal resistance of 6 ohm. Then the maximum power transfer to load resistance RL will be. Now here we will take same circuit. Here 6 volt, 12 volt and 6 ohm. So what is current through the circuit? I is equal to E upon Ri plus RL. Now E, that is 12 volt, divided by 6 plus RL. Now we want maximum power. So we get here I is equal to 12 upon 6 plus 6, because Ri is equal to RL for maximum power. So we get this as 1 ampere. 1 ampere. So what is power delivered? And that is maximum. So IL square RL. IL means I. It is power. Now since RL is equal to RI, power is max. So we get here 1 square into RL is 6 ohm. So we get 6 watt. 6 watt. So here out of these, this last one is correct. Now next one, if two resistances 20 ohm and 30 ohm are connected in parallel to a battery of EMF 24 volt, the current flowing through 20 ohm each, 2 ampere, 0.8 ampere, 1.2 ampere, 0.5 ampere. Now in this case, we have here source E, and that is 24 volt, and then we have two resistances, they are parallel. R1 and R2. Then we will have here total resistance I, here I1, here I2. Now potential difference across R1 and R2 will be same. So E is equal to E upon RP is equal to I. And what is I1? I1 is equal to I into, now we have to find through R1, so take R2 upon R1 plus R2, and I2 is equal to I into R1 upon R1 plus R2, and I is equal to I1 plus I2 according to Kirchhoff's law. So first find out RP and then I. RP is equal to R1 R2 upon R1 plus R2. So we get RP 20 into 30 divided by 20 plus 30. So it is 50 by 60, 60 by 600 by 50. So we get here 12 ohm. It is 12 ohm. So I is equal to 24 divided by 12, so it is 2 ampere. So what is I1? I1 I will take this as 20 ohm, this as 30 ohm. So I1 it is I 2 into 30 divided by 50. So 60 divided by 50. So it is 6 by 5. So it is 1.2 ampere. So it is 1.2 ampere through 20 ohm, and 0.8 will flow through 30 ohm. So if you calculate this from this, you will get 0.8 ampere. Now if any network, in any network, maximum power transfer to the load resistance from the source with same internal resistance is internal resistance, then efficiency is now here we have seen already E, this is internal resistance of the source. These are two terminals, and across two terminals we have connected RL. So I is equal to E upon Ri plus RL. So power developed by the source and power delivered to this. So I into E, that is power delivered, and I square RL, that is power delivered, and this is power generated. So if we take these two, now I is this, so E upon, so E square upon Ri plus RL. This is power generated by the source, and E square upon Ri plus RL into RL. This is power across load resistance. Now take this PL upon P, and at maximum power, at Ri is equal to RL, simply use this one. So you will get this as 1/2. This as 1/2. Simply take ratio of these two and take RL is equal to Ri is equal to RL. I square, sorry, here square. So you will get 1/2, that is 0.5, and percentage into 100%, so you will get 50%. So efficiency, maximum efficiency is 50%. In an ideal op-amp we have, now if we take ideal operational amplifier, it has certain parameters. This is symbol for operational amplifier, plus Vs minus Vs minus plus, this is inverting terminal, this is non-inverting terminal, V0. So here infinite input impedance. Input impedance is what? Input voltage upon input current, that is input impedance. Now here input impedance must be infinite, Ri must be infinite. If we take output impedance measured between output terminal and ground, that Ro must be 0 ideally, and its slew rate for operational amplifier, it is infinite. CMR, it is also infinite, and so on. So there are number of parameters. Out of the, here 3 parameters are given: infinite input impedance S, 0 input offset voltage S, infinite slew rate S. What is input offset voltage? Input offset voltage, it is difference in inputs for which output is 0. So ideally it must be 0. So all of the above is correct here. So you have to see carefully which parameter is given and is correct or not. Now superposition theorem does not work for. Now we have seen here superposition principle here. So when we can find, suppose we take resistance R1, we can find voltage across R1 and current through R1. But this superposition theorem, it is not used for power. So it can be used for current through some resistance or voltage across resistance, but it is not used for power. It is not used for power. So works for all above? No. So this one is correct. Superposition theorem does not work for power. In transistor, the base is, now if we see general transistor structure, this is silicon chip. Now if we take NPN transistor, this is doped with pentavalent impurities and this is doped with trivalent impurity. Here tri, penta, penta, and 3 terminals are taken out. This region is called E, this middle region is called base, and this region is called collector. Now this base, it is lightly doped and thin in size. This is heavily doped and moderate in size, and this is moderately doped collector. But since it has to collect charges or carriers, its size is more as compared to emitter. So here in transistor, the base is heavily doped and thin in size, no. Moderately doped and thin in size, no. Lightly doped and thin in size, yes. Lightly doped and large in size, no. In transistor, the emitter is heavily doped and medium in size. Its size is less than collector, greater than base. Which one of the following has the largest size in transistor? So collector has the largest size in transistor because it has to collect charges. Now a transistor is dot operated device. So if we take any transistor, suppose we take NPN transistor, when we want to see working of this transistor, we take base current, emitter current and collector current, and then on the basis of that currents we find voltages. So it is current operated device. It is current operated device. Now in NPN transistor, the minority carriers are, so here we have seen here transistor. So what happens here? Electrons are, these are electrons. Electrons are majority charge carriers and electrons flow. So there are some minority charge carriers and that are holes. So in NPN transistor, the minority charge carriers are holes. In a transistor, the base current is about dot of emitter current. So here we have IE is equal to IB plus IC. So if we have transistor, So this is emitter, base, collector, and suppose this is NPN, then we connect these to negative, positive, because base emitter junction is forward bias and this junction is reverse bias. So here we get IE, IB and IC. So what happens? The charge carriers, they move from emitter to collector, and only few they recombine with holes, giving out hole current, base current. But very few are recombined. And about means suppose here 100 electrons are there, nearly 95 will pass in collector and 5% will recombine, giving out base current. So generally 5%. A NPN transistor conducts when? Now NPN transistor conducts when base emitter junction is forward bias and base collector junction is reverse bias. So if we see here, suppose this is NPN transistor, this is collector, base, emitter. Now this is NPN. So this junction must be reverse bias. This junction must be forward bias. So forward bias means this P must be connected to positive of battery and E must be connected to negative of battery. And this junction must be reverse bias. So this must be at higher positive potential than base. So both emitter and collector are positive with respect to the base. Both emitter and collector are negative with respect to the base. Collector is positive and emitter is negative with respect to the base. So this one is correct. Emitter must be more negative to base and base must be more negative to collector. So collector is at higher potential than base and base is at higher potential than emitter. Now next one, the most commonly used transistor configuration is, now it is common emitter configuration, in which emitter is common between base and emitter. It is common between base and emitter. Now next question is, in a transistor, the relation between three currents is. Now we have three currents: emitter current, base current and collector current. That relation is IE is equal to IC plus IB. IE is emitter current, IC is collector current, IB is base current. Base current is usually very small, maybe in microamperes. IC it is in milliamperes, IE it is also in milliamperes. So IE is approximately equal to IC because IB is very small. Next one, so here IE is equal to IC plus IB, this last one is correct. Now next one, the transistor amplification factor alpha is. So here suppose we take NPN transistor in common base mode. So here this is NPN transistor and it is in common base mode. We give input in emitter circuit. So here E, B and C. Since it is NPN, and for biasing this is P and we take output in collector circuit V0, here RC, and here this must be collector base junction, must be reverse bias. So here input current is IE, output current is IC. So we define current amplification factor alpha is equal to IC upon IE, or you can define alpha is delta IC upon delta IE. So here IC upon IE is correct one. Now next one, when both emitter base junction and collector base junction are reverse biased, the transistor is said to be in. Now here we are interested in output characteristic. So suppose we take common base circuit. This is PNP transistor. Here we measure IB. For that we give here input battery and emitter is common. So this is VCC, we can call this as VBB, here it is IB, we get here milliampere plus minus IC, here plus minus this one, here we get IE, and here we take VCE. This is transistor characteristic circuit. And suppose if we plot graph between VCE and IC, VCE and IC. So we choose particular input current, that is IB. Suppose IB is 0 microampere, and we plot graph of VCE versus IC, start from 0, and you may get graph like this. This is for IB is equal to 0. Then we take IB is equal to some higher value, and then we plot graph. IB is equal to suppose 50 microampere. Then again we take higher value of IB, and then we plot graph. IB is equal to 100 microampere, graph between IC and VC. Then we take higher value of base current, keep it constant, and change VCE and find IC, and then plot graph. Here it is 100, 150 microampere, and so on. This is called output characteristics. Now this output characteristics has 3 regions. So here if we see this region, and if we take any point in this region, so corresponding to this point we have VCE and IC, but IB is negative. IB is negative means base emitter junction becomes reverse bias, and collector base junction is also reverse bias. So this region is called cutoff region. Now we have this region. So you can take any point here corresponding IC and VCE. You will not get that current IC for this VCE. So this region, it is called saturation region. And in this saturation region, BE, it is forward bias, and BC, it is also forward bias. And here this is the region in which actual transistor works. This is called active region, and in this active region BE, it is forward bias, BE means base emitter junction, and BC, base collector junction, is reverse bias. So in our question, when both emitter base junction and collector base junctions are reverse biased, the transistor is said to be in cutoff region. Now next one, in a UJT the p-type emitter region is. Now if we see emitter construction of UJT, so here one semiconductor channel is taken, and generally it is N channel, means doped with N type impurity, N channel. Two terminals are taken out from this. These are called base terminals. And then here near to base B2, somewhere here, the region is doped with p-type impurity, and this is heavily doped, and terminal is taken out from this. This is called emitter. So this is construction of UJT, and emitter region, p-type emitter region, it is heavily doped. When the emitter terminal of UJT is open, the resistance between the base terminals is generally. So here, when emitter is not connected to any source, and suppose we connect here battery, we can call this as VBB. Now between base B1 and B2, resistance is set up, that is RBB, and that resistance is very high. So if we take here reference point here, so the resistance is divided into two parts, RB2 and here RB1, and this RBB is equal to RB1 plus RB2, RB1 plus RB2, and this RB1 is large. So here high current, very high current, high resistance between base terminals. Next one, when the peak point and the valley point of UJT emitter characteristics, we have dot 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 region. So if we come here, now you can connect here source between B1 and emitter. Let us call this as VE, and if we take this variable, now what happens here, between B1 and B2 current will flow. Now this channel has resistance, so here we get potential difference V2, and here we get potential difference V1, and V1 plus V2, it is VBB. So whatever potential here, and potential, applied potential here VE, this junction may become forward bias or reverse bias, and you can go on changing VE, and we can measure corresponding IE. And if we plot graph of that, that is called emitter characteristic. So what happens here in this circuit, if we plot graph between IE and VE, so here VE is 0, IE is 0, then you will get Nature of graph is like this. So here we get Vp, peak value of voltage, corresponding to some Ip. Here IV, and corresponding voltage, emitter voltage, is Vv. Now this is called valley point. Valley point, and this is called peak point. This is peak point. So we have here region. Now here when VE is less than 0, you will get characteristic. This is due to leakage current, and this region is called cutoff region. Cutoff region. Now if we take this region from peak to valley point, in this region you will see that there is increase in current with decrease in voltage. So this one is called negative resistance region. And here from this is saturation region. So this is general characteristic of UJT for this circuit, emitter characteristics. So here between the peak point and valley point, UJT emitter characteristics, we have that dash 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 region, that is negative resistance region, and above valley point, that is saturation region. Now next one, for a transistor, if beta is equal to 100 and collector current is 100 milliampere, then IE is, so what is given? IC is given, that is 100 milliampere. Beta is given, that is 100. We have to find IE. What is IE? We know beta is equal to IC upon IB. We can write this as IC upon IE minus IC. IE minus IC. So IE minus IC will be equal to IC upon beta. So IE is equal to IC upon beta plus IC. So we get here IC 1 upon beta plus IC, 1. So we get here IC into 1 plus beta upon beta. So IE will be equal to IC, that is 100 milliampere, 1 plus 100 upon 100. So we get here IE is equal to 100 upon 100 get cancelled. So 101 milliampere. This is the emitter current. So this last one is correct. Now next one, and in an ideal operational amplifier we have, now we know symbol of operational amplifier. These are two input terminals. This first one is inverting terminal. The second one is non-inverting terminal. This is output terminal. These are supply voltage terminals. And when we study this ideally, this operational amplifier must have infinite input impedance and zero output impedance. So whatever Ri measured here, Ri must be infinite, R0 must be 0 ideally, and common mode rejection ratio CMRR must be equal to infinite. So here if we see 0 input impedance, no, infinite common mode rejection ratio S, infinite output impedance, no, all of these no. So this second one is correct. Now next one, in a transistor IC is equal to 100 milliampere and IE is equal to 100.2 milliampere. The value of beta is, just we have seen, beta is equal to IC upon IB, or it is equal to IC upon IE minus IC. So beta is equal to 100 milliampere divided by 100.2 milliampere minus 100 milliampere. So you will get 100 divided by 0.2. So this is 1000 divided by 2, means it is 500. So beta is 500. So beta is 500. Now the differential gain of operational amplifier is, now here we have seen operational amplifier. What is output of operational amplifier? V0 is equal to A times Vp minus Vn. So in operational amplifier, difference in inputs is amplified. Difference in inputs is amplified. So difference will be small, so gain here it is very large to get more output. So the differential gain of operational amplifier is large, very large. The operational amplifier can amplify AC signals only, DC signals only, both AC and DC signals, neither DC nor AC signals. Operational amplifier amplifies AC as well as DC signals. So here this one is correct. The two terminals of an operational amplifier are named as, so these are two input terminals. This is inverting terminal, this is non-inverting terminal. So here high input and low input, no, positive negative, no, inverting and non-inverting, yes. So this one is correct. In the common mode of operational amplifier, both inputs are grounded, the outputs are connected together, an ideal signal appears on both the inputs. The output voltage, output signals are in phase. Actually in common mode 1, we apply same signal Vin to both the terminals, inverting as well as non-inverting. So here an identical signal appears on both the inputs. The closed loop voltage gain of an inverting amplifier equals the ratio of the input resistance to the feedback resistance, the open loop voltage gain, the feedback resistance divided by the input resistance, the input resistance. Now if we see inverting amplifier, these are two terminals, these are supply voltage terminals, plus Vs minus Vs, and this is output terminal V0. So here non-inverting terminal is connected to ground and feedback is given to inverting terminal and feedback resistance is Rf. Then we connect here R1 and here Vi. So this point is A, this is called virtual ground because Va will be equal to Vb, but Vb is 0, so Va is 0, that is called virtual ground. Now what is gain of this operational amplifier? It is Rf upon R1. R1 is input resistance, Rf is feedback resistance. So it is ratio of this. So the gain is the feedback resistance divided by the input resistance. This one is correct. when 0 holds on both inputs is applied, an operational amplifier ideally should have an output voltage equal to, we know V0 is equal to A Vp minus Vn. So if both are 0, then output must be equal to 0. So it is 0. Next one, for an operational amplifier working with negative feedback, the output is increased, fed back to the inverting input equal to the input fed back to the non-inverting input. So here we have seen negative feedback, whatever output we have, its part is fed back to inverting terminal in negative feedback. So it is fed back to the inverting input, fed back to the inverting input. A certain non-inverting amplifier has R1 equal to 1 kilo ohm and RF is equal to 10 kilo ohm feedback resistance. The closed loop voltage gain will be, closed loop gain means gain with feedback. So if we see non-inverting amplifier, so in non-inverting amplifier, this is feedback circuit, and now we connect input to non-inverting terminal, and here inverting is connected to ground, and in this case we get V0, it is 1 plus RF upon R1 into Vi. So gain is 1 plus RF upon R1. This is gain in non-inverting one. So here we have 1 plus RF is 10 kilo ohm divided by 1 kilo ohm. So we'll get 1 plus 10, that is 11. So gain is 11. A common mode signal is applied to both the inputs of operational amplifier. Both the inputs. Now next one, the output voltage for the following operational amplifier circuit is. Now see here, here we have V0. If we see this point as A point, this point as B point, so here actually RF is feedback resistance, R1, R2, R3, these are 3 input resistances. So this is simply adder circuit. Adder circuit. So suppose we take here current IF, VA is equal to what? 0. This is virtual ground. So that one is convert, and here no current flows through this. Here no current flows. So whatever current it comes, it goes to I1, I2, I3, and so IF is equal to I1 plus I2 plus I3. So what is IF? Between A and output. So IF is V0 minus VA upon RF, and this is equal to what is I1? VA minus V1. So I will call this as V1, this as V2, this as V3. So upon R1 plus VA minus V2 upon R2 plus VA minus V3 upon R3. But since VA is virtual ground, you will get V0 upon RF is equal to minus V1 upon R1 minus V2 upon R2 minus V3 upon R3. So V0 is equal to minus RF upon R1 into V1 minus RF upon R2 into V2 minus RF upon R3 into V3. Now let us use values. RF is 12 kilo ohm divided by R1 is 10, we have seen here, and V1 is 3 volt. So we'll get here 3 volt, 3 minus 12 by 10 again into minus 2 minus 12 by 10 into 4. So if we find this, you will get this one, first one, 12 into 3 divided by 10. So you will get 3.6 with minus sign. You will get here 2.4 with plus sign and 4.8 with minus sign. So if we calculate this, you will get minus 5.8 volt V0. So here you will get minus 5.8. So you have to see this circuit carefully. It is adder circuit of operational amplifier. The base or radix in hexadecimal number system is, we know base is 16, that is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. These digits are used, and A, B, C, D, E, F, these letters are used. Now next one, the decimal number 131 into its equivalent binary number is. Now we have to convert 131. So what is method? So take that number 131, divide it by 2. Now we will get division, we will get remainder. What is division? We will get division, that is 65, and remainder is 1. Now divide this division by 2. So 65, so we will get 32, and remainder you will get 1. Then 32 divide by 2, we will get 16 division, and remainder is 0. Then 16 by 2 division 8, remainder is 0. Then 8 by 2, 4, remainder is 0. 4 by 2, 2, 0. Then 2 by 2, 1, 0. Then 1 by 2, 0, division, remainder 1. Now division is 0, so stop here. Now this is MSB and this is LSB. So take number like this. So you will get here 1, then 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and then 1, 1. This is the binary number. Now here this is not correct. This one is also not correct. This one is also not correct. This is correct. This is correct. Now next one. The binary number 10101 has a decimal equivalent. Now see here, this number is 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. We have to convert this into decimal. So this is D0, D1, D2, D3, D4. So start from this. So for this, D0 means 1 into 2 raised to 0 plus. Now D1 into 2 raised to 1. So 0 into 2 raised to 1 plus D2 into 2 raised to 2. D2 is 1, 2 raised to 2 plus D3 into 2 raised to 3. So 0 into 2 raised to 3 plus D4 into 2 raised to 4. So 1 into 2 raised to 4. Now 2 raised to 4 is 16 plus 2 raised to 3 is 8 into 0, so 0 plus 2 raised to 4, 4 into 1, that is 4 plus 0 into 2, 0 plus 1 into 2 raised to 0, that is 1. So if we take this as 16 plus 4 plus 1, so it is 21. So it is 21. 21. Now next one, the binary number 1101.01 has a decimal equivalent. So we have two parts, after decimal point, before decimal point. So suppose here we have decimal point, then we will write number here 1 0 1 1 1, and after decimal point 0 1. So here 1 into 2 raised to 0 plus 0 into 2 raised to 1 plus 1 into 2 raised to 2 plus 1 into 2 raised to 3 plus 1 into 2 raised to 4. Now 2 raised to 4, it is 16 plus 8 plus 4 plus 0 plus 1. Point now here 0 into 2 raised to minus 1, that is 1 half, plus 1 into 2 raised to minus 2, that is 1 by 4. 2 raised to minus 2, 2 raised to minus 1 after decimal point. So this one will be equal to 29.0 plus now 0.25. So we will get 29.25. So here 29.25. Now next one, the hexadecimal equivalent of 0, if we see here 0 1 0 1 1 1 0 1 0 1 1 point 0 1 1 0 1 1. So here first separate this into 4-bit binaries. So here we have 1 1 0 1, this is first one. Then here second we have 1 1 1 0, then 0 1 0, and you can add leading 0. Here also 0 1 1 0, then 1 1, you can add trailing zeros, here 2 and here 1. Now for each set of 4 bits, give corresponding binary number. So we must know that list. So if we start here for 0 decimal, we have 0 0 0 0 4-bit binary. For 1 0 0 0 1, for 2 0 0 1 0, for 3 0 0 0 1 1, for 4 0 1 0 0, for 5 0 1 0 1, for 6 0 1 1 0, for 7 0 1 1 1, for 8 1 0 0 0, for 9 1 0 0 1, for 10 1 0 1 0, for 11 1 0 1 1, for 12 1 0 1 1 0 0, for 13 1 1 0 1, for 14 1 1 1 0, and for 15 1 1 1 1. And this 10 in hexadecimal we take A, 11B, 12C, 13D, 14E, and 15F. Now see here 1011. 1011 is B. 1110. 1110, you will get E, this one, E. So E. And 0010, 0010, that is 2. So 2. And point 0110, 0110, that is 6, and here 1100, that is C. So number is 2EB dot C, 6C. This is the number. So 2EB dot 6C. So this is correct answer. Now next one, the binary equivalent of 2B9.0B. So here we can write 2B9E.0B. So take corresponding this one. For E we have seen here. For E 1110. So we take here 1110. For 9 we have 1001. For 9 1001. For B we have 1011. 1011. For 2 0010. For 0000, and here 1011. So this is the number. Now you can so when we write here, you can take 10 1011 1001 1110.0000, here 4 zeros, 11011. So you can ignore these leading zeros. So this is the number. So if we see here 1010, here 1010, 111 001 1110, and this first one is correct. This first one is correct. Now next one, the decimal equivalent of 2A7 to the base 16H. So you have to convert like this, 2A7. This is hexadecimal number. So this is D0, D1 and D2. So here base is 16. So you have to take D0, that is 7 into 16 raised to 0, plus D1, that is A. A means 10. So 10 into 16 raised to 1, plus now here 2 into 16 raised to 2. A is 10. So here you will have 2 into 256, plus you will get 160 plus 7. So here if we calculate this, 2 into 256, you will get 512 plus 160 plus 7. So you will get 679 in decimal 10. Now next one, the hexadecimal equivalent of 1694.674. So we can take here two parts. So decimal point is separator. So we'll take first this one, 1694. Now like binary, we have to divide it by 16. We have to take division and remainder. Now if we divide this by 16, then 16 16 1 9 0 4. So you will get 105, and remainder is 14. Then 105 divided by 16, division 16 into 6, that is 96. So you will get here 6, and remainder is 9. Then 6 divided by 16, division is 0, remainder is 6. Now this 14, it is E. in hexadecimal. So write number from this to this. So you will get 69E. This is before decimal point. After decimal point we have 0.674. So we have to multiply this by 16. So if we take multiplication, we get 10.784. So take out integer, that is 10, and then 0.784 fractional part multiplied by 16. So you will get 12.544. So take out integer, then 0.544 multiply it by 16. So you will get 8.704. So take out integer and then 0.704 multiplied by 16. So you will get 11.264. So 11, and continue this one till we get this fractional part 0. So 10 is A, 12 is C, 8 and B. So you have to write this from top to bottom. So 69E point AC8B. This is the hexadecimal equivalent. So here this one is correct. Now the decimal equivalent of, now here F9.0B. So here 9 into 16 raised to 0 plus F. F means 15 into 16 raised to 1. Point 0 into 16 raised to minus 1. So 1 upon 16. Plus B means it is 11 into 16 square. 1 upon 16 square. So calculate this. So 15 into 16. So 15 into 16, you will get 240 plus 9 point. Now this is first one is 0 plus 11 by 256, you will get 0.0429. So you will get what? 249.0429. This is the number to the base 10. So this last one is correct. Now next one, the decimal number 457 to the base 10 into the BCD code is. So in BCD code we take 4 bit binary for each digit. So we know this is 0 1 1 1, and for 5 it is, we have seen here. Here 5 0 1 0 1, 0 1 0 1, and this is 0 1 0 0. So this is the BCD. So 0 1 0 0, so 3, so 0 1 0 0 0 1 0 1 0 1 1 1. So here if we see out of these, so you have to see it carefully because you may get confused here. So this first one is correct. First one is correct. So you can take 4 bit wise also to check. So 4 bit and 4 bit. So that is correct. Now next one, minus 8, 10 in 1's complement form is. So first we have to take 8 in binary form. So if we convert 8 into binary form, we have seen here 8, that is 1 0 0 0. So 8 in the binary form is 1 0 0 0. So this is 4 bit number. So to give sign, we may add additional bit. So we can take 5 bit register, suppose. So 5 bit register. So in 5 bit register, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So number is stored like this, 0 0 0 1, and this is sign bit, and in this sign bit you can have 0. So this is plus 8 number in 5 bit. You can take 6 bit, first bit will be for sign. Now its 1's complement is 1's complement. If we take here 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So 1's complement of this is 1. 1's complement of this is 1. 1's complement of this is 1. 1's complement of this is 0, and 1's complement of this, it is 1. So here now this is minus 8 in 1's complement. So 1 0 1 1 1 2, 1 0 1 1 2. So this B. Now next one, the sign magnitude representation of decimal minus 37 to the base 10 each. So first we have to convert 37 in binary form. So 37 divided by 2, you will get division. So you will get here 18 and remainder is 1. Now 18 divided by 2, division is 9, remainder is 0. 9 by 2, division is 4, remainder is 1. Then 4 by 2, division is 2, remainder is 0. 2 by 2, division is 1, remainder is 0. Then 1 by 2, division is 0, remainder is 1. Then stop here. And then write reminders from bottom to top. So we get here 1 0 0 1 0 1. So this is the number 37 in binary form. So it is now 6 bit. So to give sign, we take additional bit for the number, and that is used for sign. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 and 7. Now in 6 bits the number is stored. So 1 0 1 0 0 1. So this is the number, and here this bit is for sign. If we have 0 here, then plus 37, 1 here, then it is minus 37. So this is minus 37. So minus 37 in 7 bit, it is 1 1 0 0 1 0 1. 1 1 0 0 1 0 1. So B is correct. Now next one, the sign magnitude representation of 15 is. Now if we take 15, that is 1 1 1 1. So this is 4 bit. So if we take 5 bit register, we add here 1 bit. If it is 0, then this bit is used for sign. It is positive number, so plus 5 plus 15. So plus 15, so this first one is true. Sorry, this one is true. If it is 1 here, then it is negative 15. Now next one. In a given digital circuit, A and B form the inputs, the output Y. So see circuit carefully. If we see circuit carefully, A and B are two inputs, and here we have, this is NOT gate, this is OR gate, this is OR gate, this is NAND gate. Now A, here it becomes A bar. Now AB, for this is first, this is second gate. So here A bar plus B, and here we get A, we get B, so here A plus B. If we have AND gate, then output is A bar plus B into A plus B and complement. This is output. Now let us take first this part, A bar plus B. We will simplify this first and then we will take complement. So you can write this is equal to A bar into A plus B plus B, A plus B. So A bar into A plus A bar into B plus BA plus BP. Now A bar into A, it is equal to 0 from Boolean algebra. So 0 plus A bar B plus, we can write this as AB plus B into B, that is B according to Boolean algebra. So it is B. So we get here A bar plus A into B plus B. Now A bar plus A, according to Boolean algebra, it is 1. Means if A is 1, A bar is 0. If A is 0, A bar is 1. And 1 plus 0 or 0 plus 1 is 1. So we get first one as B plus B. So it is B. It is B. So B and then its complement. So B and then its complement. So B complement, B bar. So Y is equal to B bar. Three basic gates in an electric circuits are, three basic gates are AND, OR and NOT, and all other gates are derived gates. They are derived from AND, OR and NOT gates. So here first one AND, OR, NOR, AND, NAND, OR, AND, OR, NOT. So this is correct. Here this is also not correct. So AND, OR, NOT, these are three basic gates. Now next one, the output of Boolean equation AB plus AB bar is. So you can write here A, B plus B bar. Now B plus B bar is 1, so it is A. So it is A. In Boolean algebra, A into A is A. The output of XOR gate having inputs 1, 0. For XOR gate, what is Y? Y is A bar B plus AB bar. So here 0, 0 will give you 0, 1, 0 will give you 1, 0, 1 will give you 1, and 1, 1 will give you 0. So here if inputs are 1, 0, output is 1. Now next one, the final result of the Boolean, following Boolean equation is. So here A plus B in first bracket into A plus B bar in second bracket into A bar plus C in third bracket. So here we can take A into A plus b bar plus b into a plus b bar from first two bracket multiplied by a bar plus c. So if we solve this bracket, we will get a into a plus ab bar plus ba plus bb bar multiplied by a bar plus c. Now according to Boolean algebra, a into a is a plus ab bar plus ba and bb bar is 0. So a bar plus c. Now here a plus, you can take a, b bar plus b into a bar plus c. Now b bar plus b is always 1 according to Boolean algebra. So you will get a plus a and a bar plus c. Now a plus a is a. Then we know 1 plus 1 is 1, 0 plus 0 is 0. So a bar plus c. So we will get a bar plus ac. A bar is 0 plus ac, so this gives you ac. So ac is correct answer. Now next one, the output impedance of transistor circuit is. Now we have seen output characteristics IC and VCE. Suppose we take one characteristic, suppose this one, and this part it is in active region corresponding to sub IB. So if we take 2 points here, now corresponding to this point we have IC1 and corresponding to this point we have IC2, and here V1 and here V2, and R0 that is V1 minus V2 upon IC2 minus IC1. And if we see here, for very small change in input current, collector current, there is large change in output voltage. So what happens? This is high. So slope is high. Slope is low. So 1 upon slope is R0, output resistance. So it is high. So thanks very much. So if you like my lecture, I request you to forward this lecture to your friends. Also subscribe my channel and press like button. If you like you can give comments also. So thanks very much.